Launch Radio, we are live. Geoff and Kira, our guest today is a very special person and friend, Jen Friel. A little bit about Jen. She is the CRO of DropIn Inc. and creator of the Talk Nerdy to Me Lover blog, which is a new media relationship blog. She was featured on the first season of the CNBC show West Texas Investors Club, where she pitched her app, What Up, the App LLC. She received a $50,000 investment from Rooster McConaughey and Butch Gilliam, and sold WUTA in July 2015 to local business owners in
Islamorada, Florida. Yeah,
Florida.
Say it again.
Islamorada, Florida. The rights to Friel's blog were optioned as a put pilot by CBS in a bidding war in late 2015. Bruckheimer TV is producing with Warner Brothers TV. She's the Chief Revenue Officer of DropIn Inc., a remote on-demand video inspection platform that creates live video feeds of any place in the world at any time. The service caters to the insurance and automotive industries, and we are happy to have you here.
So excited.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you guys so much. Yeah, we've met years ago, so it's just been kind of funny how we kind of kept bumping into each other, sort of in this space, out of the space, and yeah, so I'm happy to be here.
How did you guys meet again?
You know, we were working an event.
Yeah, the charity. It was the Colon for Cancer. I still love that T-shirt. And we auctioned off bachelors and bachelorettes from the show.
God, amazing!
It was so fun. Yeah, and I always thought you were so dope. So I was like, oh, this is great, because it was a very interesting kind of clientele to deal with, because you're dealing with bachelor and bachelorettes, and they're very intense.
Yeah.
So
Did you end up with anyone when you came?
No, I mean, I didn't, you know, I was just there to support. I was literally just there because my grandfather passed away from colon cancer, so it was in honor of him, and I wrote about it on my blog and helped just in any way that I could, so it was a great event.
Yeah, I lost my grandfather to colon cancer too. It's funny how that, you know, all comes together, and yeah, we met there, and I remember, yeah, it was a great event, and then we had that event, and then we ran into each other again, I think, as the years went by.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. As I remember, but yeah, it's
LA's a small world.
Such a small world.
You're not originally from here, right?
No, I'm from Connecticut, actually. But it's funny, I lived in Islamorada, Florida for 2.5 years, and I used to think, I was like, oh yeah, LA is a small world. And I was like, try living on an island with 4,000 population with people, and it's like, your definition does get a little bit smaller, but I do agree, LA, especially, you kind of can't help but bump into each other when you're in certain social circles.
Yeah,
so it's just a commonality thing.
So I mean, my God, your resume is knee deep, you know? So, I mean, you've obviously been wildly successful. What's the biggest thing that you're inspired by today that you're moving forward with? Because there seems to be so much that you're focused on.
Right now, my TV show, so I'm so lucky. So I didn't know this until I was in some of these meetings. So I got super lucky that Bruckheimer bought my blog. Well, I had walked away from it. I'm living on this island. I'm like, are you kidding me? Dramatic cliches happen in life. You say, like, you decide for yourself, like, after, you know, like almost 8 years of just back and forth with all these different people trying to develop something with the blog, I was like, okay, I want to be happy. I'm not happy anymore. I've lived on this island. And so dramatic cliches do exist. And but then it was in a 4-way bidding war between ABC, NBC, CBS, and Fox, and it sold to CBS. But Les Moonves that season picked up The Great Indoors instead of Talk Nerdy to Me. So I got all of this publicity in the trades. I got all of this, you know, kind of attention. And I was Jerry Bruckheimer's first comedic TV pilot. So they were all pretty excited about it. And then all of a sudden it was like this golden goose that was like, okay, well now this is a monkey on your back, because now what are you going to do with it? You know, you call yourself a producer, go produce. While having a startup, while trying to have a personal life, took me 19 months. It's fully repackaged. It's out right now. We have some offers in, and I am over the moon, because it's exactly what it should be. The first script was, they just liked the name and they loosely based a character on me, but it was like kind of that world. This was exactly as the blog is in terms of stories. The characters are amazing. We've worked our butt off on it, and I'm so proud. Like right now, it doesn't even have to go anywhere or sell. I'm like, I'm good. I did it. And I got it. You know, my calendar has been the coolest it's ever looked for a handful of weeks, where I'm like all these A-listers, and I'm like, this is such a surreal life experience. Like, I did it without agents. I just did it, you know, just pounding the pavement and pitching constantly.
Yeah. Now, when you started the blog originally, when you started writing, did you think it would turn into this? What motivated you to start writing? Was you just one day start writing about your life?
I saw a trend. Yeah, it actually started November 3rd, 2009. I saw a trend in the space. I'd been going to a bunch of tech conferences when I worked in Verizon, indirect cellular activations, which is the sexiest thing ever. But I was really good at it. And so I went to a bunch of tech conferences, and then I went to the 140 conference, and I was like, these people are hot. Like, half the room was really attractive, and they were like talking about tech, and I was like, nerds are gonna be hot. This is a thing. I can do this. So I started the blog because of that, because I wanted a job. I wanted a job in the space, and I didn't really know how to do that. So, because the space was, we called it Web 2.0. We didn't even call it social media at that point. So, but I had a resume. I worked for one of the founders of MySpace back in 2007, launched his startup. So I had a resume in social media when like no one had a resume in social media. So it gave me a bit of competitive edge. And then I just used the blog as like a permission slip to, I called it being unapologetically awesome, but like to just own myself and own these weird ideas that I have, like crashing the Grammys, getting to dance on stage with Prince, accidentally doing the 103 dates in 9 months. It's all organic. Like I don't push, I don't try to be something that I'm not. I can't do that actually. It leads me down a very dark, depressive hole. But I just kind of kept going with it. And then obviously the TV stuff started happening. I was Married Parents' first TV pilot, which is amazing. And one thing after another kind of led me here, but it's been a lot of work.
Have you found, I love your personality. I just met you like 5 minutes ago because I think we're very similar in the sense that we're just like, it's a no fucks given, and this is who we are, and
exactly.
It's just like balls to the wall, and I don't,
But for yourself, and that's where I think a lot of people in the space now, especially like with the YouTubers and all these pranksters, like just doing these stupid, corny videos just to get attention. It's like, I don't really need attention. I want to challenge myself and challenge my own brain. I'm pushing myself in the process, and I'm inviting people to watch along the way.
Have you noticed that whether or not mainstream, like have you had pushback from the mainstream where they're like, this is a little too much? Like, you need to back up your writing a little bit, or like who you are. We want to make you a little dumbed down version, so to
100%. I had a series of VCs tell me that, because I'm honest about like, drinking with my friends and having sex, and like, my last post that I just wrote about, I got flagged with a dildo, which actually I had multiple sex toys in my bag, but got flagged with a dildo at TSA, like got the extra room for security room for screening for them, not for me, because I wasn't embarrassed at all. Like, but I've had multiple people over the years try and say, well, maybe you should go in this direction, or maybe you should go in this direction, and it's not possible for me, which is also slightly frustrating, because I'm sure I could be pigeonholed in sort of a certain light, but it's also, it's very gratifying right now, and I'm excited to see where things kind of go and unfold.
Oftentimes when people are pushing back like that, it means you're doing something right. It means you're coming from, who you are. You're being authentic in your work.
Absolutely, and then that's the thing, and I think that's what people are looking for right now is, one, they're attracted to anybody who has a sense of freedom by whatever definition that means, whether that's sexuality, whether that's with your work, with your personal life, whatever that means. That sense of freedom is something that I feel like we're all really seeking. Yeah. So if you actually have that and you're documenting it, people are like, whoa, this is cool. But then everybody else wants a piece of it or wants to kind of change it. And then it's up to you and whatever integrity, you kind of have to decide what you want to do at that point.
Do you have like a mentor of staying true? Like, I know a lot of people will be like, here, you shouldn't post this because, and I'm like, in my head, I know that you're trailblazing, obviously. Yeah. But do you have someone that checks and balances, or you're like?
No, I can't.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's actually kind of frustrating for me too. I'm constantly learning from everybody and everything, so I don't mean to say it like that. But anything that I choose to write about, or anything that I'm posting or designing or anything, I'm like, I take a minute, I express what I think I want to express, and then I'll ask maybe for feedback. But in terms of writing or anything like that, I can't. It pains me, and it takes away part of the fun, creative element behind it. If I'm asking too much for other people's validations and opinions, I won't go anywhere or do anything.
Now, the main theme of the blog, let's talk about that a little bit. So do you want to tell us about what the theme is and how that came to be and where that started?
Nerds, sex, and tech. So I literally document the good, the bad, and the ugly. My Instagram is Talk Nerdy to Me Lover too, as well. So, but with the blog, it all again started so organically. I called it at first social commentary on social media, where I would just talk about all of the stuff like you had your Mashables and you had your tech crunches. But they talked about it from such an elitist kind of perspective as like the official news sources. I was like, I'm just someone that uses this stuff. So here's what I did. Here's the adventure that I had because of this technology. And so it just kind of kept growing and growing, and I didn't mean to document my sex life as much as I did, or dating, but it was just one of these things where I recognized I had certain blocks. So anytime I felt a block, I was like, well, why don't I just write about it? And then it was just one thing after another, and now it's really cool.
At that point,
but that's kind of the cool thing too. It's weird because now I have this digital graveyard of over 7,500 blog posts.
Wow.
And 7,500. We're way over that at this point. I'm redesigning the blog as well to launch with the TV show and whatnot.
So I've got 100 blog posts. So I'm getting I'm not there, but 100. I'm working towards.
I can imagine looking back and like reading some of these. And like where you were in that period of your time.
But it's beautiful at the same time because, as we get older, you feel like I'm 34 now. I still feel like I'm 24. But then I look back at my blog post started at 25. So I look back at let's pull up, Antonio. Let's see. And I have all the screenshots. I have everything that I was doing. The song that I even wrote it to so I can go right back into that headspace and that mood. And I'm like, why did I date this guy? But so then you get a sense of pride from it of yes, I'm not doing this anymore.
Right,
this is great.
I've moved up, I think.
Yeah. So that's really fun. But I mean, it's hard too. It affects your family, affects your friends. So I've had to set certain boundaries around when I publish posts that I do the accept feature on Facebook. So it's you create family, you create groups, so that they're not constantly seeing my posts that they probably don't want to see. So but it was all just a learning curve kind of from day one, but I've never known what I was doing. I got my first business plan written on the back of a tablecloth at a Chinese restaurant in Sunset Plaza, so I've never really kind of known where anything was going. I just did it.
And you developed a fan following as well, it sounds like, on social media, and people reach out to you a lot.
But that was the thing. So I bartered social media to live for a year, so I got to 12 states with $10 to my name, and I executed influencer marketing before there was a term for it. I just saw in my head, I was like, hey, and I would literally show up at a pizza shop that I liked, and I was like, hey, I really love your pizza. Can you give me free pizza, and in exchange, I'll go just do some YouTube videos of taste tests, and then I would sit down and show them how to do the stuff that I was doing. And I never asked for money because I didn't know how to quantify it. But I mean, I literally pounded the pavement. And so that's where, when I was couch surfing, I would stay with people, and then they became part of the adventure. So they became part of the blog. So they became my word of mouth marketing and advertising, and that's how it blew up.
Wow.
So that's pretty interesting because, it's not like you're having to create a persona or create a brand. You are the brand, and you just live it and put it out there.
Absolutely.
And it's being authentic to who you are, and that's your passion is who you are.
Yeah, and that discovery. The discovery of it. But Talk Nerdy needs to stay younger. So ideally, what I want to do with the show is actually one of the elements that I want to do as it airs is replay or repost the older blogs that match with each episode, so that people can see how authentic it is to the actual real experience. So that's one. And then two, it needs to stay fresh. It needs to stay in the early 20s. I'm completely aging out of my own blog. But that's what's cool now is that now I'm a more confident person. Now I'm a better director. I'm a better editor. So I actually can be that person to sort of transition into those roles. And I'll find it way more interesting because I'm, helping sort of, these people along their way.
Yeah. Some of the recent ones that I looked at, there was the real recent one with the dildo and the airport one.
We've all been there though, but shouldn't sex toys come with some sort of TSA compliant? I had no idea. I just knew to remove the battery pack. I didn't know that
I forgot to remove the battery pack. I'm dumb.
Yeah.
I'm that dumb, and I forgot to remove the battery pack.
But then it's so funny because if you have a chick, they're usually pretty cool about it because they're like, hey, so you know, because I mean you can see on the screen the exact. There's no hiding it.
It's a gigantic penis. Obviously, it's not it's dildo.
It's wow. And then you had a couple others. There's one that was titled 50 Shades of Friel.
That one is fun.
And that one, I mean, that is a real hot topic right now. Just obviously there was 50 Shades of Grey, which everybody knows. And did you 50 Shades of Friel with the BDSM and all of that coming in? How did that come about? Has that been happening for a few years with people contacting you?
Yeah, so that's actually what the new show is all about, is literally about the exploration. And when I called myself a DIY dom, because I didn't really know what I was doing, but I kind of crowdsourced how to do what I wanted to do. So it was in 2011 or 2012, I published this tweet just saying my feet hurt from running. It was something so innocuous. And I, one, got a sponsorship from Nike literally overnight. So thank you, Nike. And then two, I posted it. Because one of my followers was one of the brand reps, and he's like, I love you. We'll send you all free stuff, whatever, come be part of the family. So they were amazing. And then the second thing was I got this email from a fan saying that, you know, he had this deep, dark secret, and he's like, I love how open you are, but can I tell you that I'm really into feet, and I live in Los Angeles, and I would love to rub your feet. And I'm like, okay, like, why not? Like, to me, it's not sexual. I don't really get, you know, any sort of pleasure from it, the physical act, but I viewed it as this intimate moment between these two people, and he was actually this inanimate object the entire time. I could be sitting next to him right now and not know, because he always wore a mask. But his thing was, he worked a very powerful, stressful job, and he's like, I just want to be a table as you blog, and I want to rub your feet. And that was his session, and that was it. But that's what he was into, and he just wanted to not be the one in control, not be the one in charge. So that was my relationship with him and the dynamic.
It almost sounds like there's like a yin and yang to it. Like, if he's in his job has to be controlling, powerful, then it was like his release or something. Or like
absolutely. Yeah, but that was the thing, but I didn't know what I was doing, and I had no idea what any of this was, but I accepted that this individual had reached out and was so honest and authentic. So I actually went to my friend, who happens to be what they call a switch, which is both a sub and a dom, and I prepared. I was absolutely shaking as I walked up to his house right above sunset, and he's like, bring a bottle of wine. He goes, you're gonna need it. And so he just opens the door, and I'm like wondering, is he gonna be in like a hood and chaps? Like, what am I walking into right now? And my friend was just in normal clothes. He's like, come on, let's go back in the back bedroom. And I was like, okay. Like, sitting on the bed so nervously. And he's like, you're okay, just take a deep breath. He's like, I'm just gonna walk you through the steps. And then he goes, and then you're gonna try it on me. And it was amazing. And I couldn't say the word master. I realized I was more of a dom than I recognized, because I've always been a bit more submissive in relationships. I prefer to be the woman, like my traditional gender roles. And so I was surprised myself. And then he even told me, he's like, make sure you tell your slaves that it's not really your first time. He goes, you're a natural. He goes, so you just go in for it. So don't tell them that you're new, because they might think differently. So just go for it, basically, which I did. I wound up with 8 slaves in total.
Eight of them?
I had 8, yeah.
And are they still around, or?
No, they go away. Yeah, the slaves come and slaves go. I actually took on a FinDom slave about a year ago. And sometimes, the average slave relationship is about probably like 4 months for me. But this one that I most recently took on I never met him. He lives in Hawaii, but yeah, you just give sort of certain commands, and I had like a Trello board of torture, and I would just,
a what board?
A Trello board of torture, where I would just have like requests. Yeah, because you have to be on it. Like, I had to stay one step ahead of him mentally at all times. So he had to submit control to me. So I had to figure out how to keep him on his toes, literally. So I would send him a message and be like, stop what you're doing right now and kiss the ground. And take a picture for me and let me know when you're ready. And so knowing how excited he would be to send me this photo, he sent me the photo immediately, and I was like, tell me when you're ready. You missed the cue, so now go away. See what I'm saying? Like, so you're constantly, I constantly had to come up with all these little mind games to test where they are, where the submissiveness actually is, but it's beneficial for both of us, because I'm like, I can use this in marketing. I can use this in, and just people skills 101, so.
And you mentioned, I saw in your blog, you mentioned FinDom.
Yeah.
It's
financial domination.
Okay.
Yeah, so I actually had one gentleman who I didn't take on as a slave. He wanted me to technically murder him. There's a part of FinDom where you literally give up everything that you kind of own. So you relinquish your home and or homes. You put the person on your life insurance plan. And then you send them to do risky things. So I'm hearing all of this for the first time. Wow. I'm sitting at Barney's Beanery and just having a beer, talking to the slave, like it's a first date, being like, this is what I'm into, what are you into? Because you set those boundaries. And he just starts telling me these stories, and he's like, and I'm listening to him, and he goes, I just really want you to give me risky things to do. So I was like skydiving? And what is the definition of risky? I had absolutely no idea. And then he goes, And this is so funny because he was like so dramatic about it. He looked like any Tom, Dick, or Harry, you know, black turtleneck, and he would just sip this beer almost like in a seductively weird manner, but like almost just for himself. He wasn't trying to do it to me. He was just saying it out loud, almost turning himself on by just saying it. Because he's like, yeah, and he's like, and then tell me to go swimming in Catalina Island by the sharks. And then he would take a beat, and he was like, but I don't know how to swim. You know what I mean? Like, it was so, like, but he was into it. And then, so.
That thrill, it was a turn on. Like,
absolutely.
Just to talk about it, let alone, yeah.
And he's telling me about, like, another dom that he had that, you know, because I asked him, I was like, well, has anybody ever succeeded in getting the contract? Meaning, like, you know, they signed over the life insurance plan, and then they told him to do something risky, and they did it. And he's like, yes, the last slave. And he goes, and now she's not a dom anymore. And that was just it. And I was like,
never mind.
Yeah, but it was interesting enough to me to have that conversation. I knew it wasn't for me, but I didn't really judge him in the process. But then he wound up having like 6 beers in a half an hour, which was, I'm shocked that they even served him that many times. And so I then got up to go and use the restroom, and he grabbed my arm, and he handed me one of the empty cups, and he goes, fill it. And I was like, I'm out. I'm out.
Oh, man.
I'm out. Yeah, that was for me like a hard boundary of like.
So the show that you're that's developed about those types of like situations.
Just about those experiences of I'm so analytical, and I'm so I process things sort of differently, and that you know, most women they're a bit more tend to be more on the emotional side, and I'm a very heart-driven person, but I'm more logical than I am emotional. I think my feelings. So it's literally about this gal who, you know, can't fit in, you know, a very stereotypical nerd, and her exploration into this, because it's comedic. I'm like, you know, like I had a slave recently that, you know, kept doing things really nicely and sent everything on time that he was supposed to do, and all the shoes, everything arrived the way it had to, and I was like, do I show him a toe? Do I show him like the whole foot? I'm like, because all I do is take pictures of my feet, so I was like, is it too slutty to show both? Like, but there's like a comedic element to it that I feel like hasn't been explored, and you know, the reason why we picked this topic was because it's still so topical, and it's hands down the most popular series of posts I've ever written, and I want to shine light onto something that's not shameful.
You know, you have to wonder, I was just thinking about it as I read your blog, reading about it, you know, you mentioned that like, you have to set like a certain time for a session or something to keep it within a frame, and just overall I was thinking like our society, there's such little knowledge and understanding of it out there.
Absolutely.
And it seems, you know, 50 Shades helped, even though I feel like a lot of people within the community weren't the biggest fan of the movie, because I think there was it portrayed him as mental health or something. Right?
Yeah, he looked like a stalker.
Yeah. But I think it's interesting that it could be interesting to see if in 50 years, 60 years, if what's kind of hidden now and not talked about is just out in the open.
Absolutely.
If like 3 friends could be having lunch, and one of them could be like, oh, I gotta go home and punish my slave, and like nobody would think anything of it.
No, absolutely.
But today people would be like, you know, people judge.
Yep.
And I think it's great that you're getting more word out there.
Absolutely, and that was the thing. So I did back in 2010. I did a 4-hour ride along with a Vegas taxi cab driver. Or technically, it was 2 hours, between 4 and 6 a.m. And he took pity on me because I had gotten locked out of my place and had nowhere to go. And he's like, I had no money on me at all. So I'm literally like falling asleep in like, you know, a hotel like bathroom, and they're like, you gotta get out of here. So he took pity on me, and he's like, his ride-alongs are super illegal in Vegas. And he told me at one point, I asked him, I was like, aren't you afraid of being, you know, robbed or raped or anything like that? And this guy had just gotten out of prison for 10 years worth of assault. For the record, before I got in the car, I took a photo of his license plate and like ID, texted it to my friend. I was like, if I die, this is the man that killed me. If I lived, I'm about to have one of the best stories ever. But he did, and he told me, he's like, you know, he goes, you know who the people that I fear the most are you. And I was like, why? And he goes, because I have all your dirty secrets. I know where you're going. I know where you're getting picked up from. And then you're being dropped off at the convention center. And then you go home to your families and you pretend like none of it happened. That suppression, I feel like, is the downfall of us. And the more honest that we can be with ourselves, the more honest you can be with someone else. That's all intimacy is like, it's corny, but it's like, into me I see. So the more that you can share this with someone, and hopefully that's your partner, but it might not be. And so for some of these people, they have very fulfilled lives, but this is just what makes them feel whole and complete, and their partner, for one reason or another, just can't supply that.
Well, it's a fear of like of being that judged, whether or not you're in love with that person or not.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? That's that like inherent like, I don't know if I trust myself enough to say it, let alone own it my own self.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Still trying to figure that out. And that's what's so great about the show is that, you know, in Los Angeles, it's like not a big deal to talk about this stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like kind of normal for people that are from different states, and you know what I mean? And like we kind of live in a bubble here where, you know, people aren't able to talk about this stuff or know a lot about it. And it's almost you're getting that information out in a comedic way, but at the same time in a very comfortable manner.
Honest.
It's not a big deal.
Yeah,
you know
it's
what I mean?
honest. I was in actually Missouri for my brother's in the military, so I went to all these different OCS graduations and well, one, I love the fact that they're like so into puns that everything is like our vacuum museum, you'll get sucked in, and I'm like, they have a Uranus fudge factory. I'm like, these are my people. This is amazing. but it was so funny. Outside of the Uranus fudge factory, there was this billboard that literally said pornography pollutes, and it was this little girl with this little flower over this lamb, and it's just you're in the Bible Belt, and they keep saying, you know, there were all these anti-abortion billboards as well for like Our Lady of Guadalupe, whatever the church was, and they were like, you know, let us save your baby, like let us do this, and it's just like you forget again exactly as you're saying, like here in LA we're all weirdos, you know, they call it Holly weird for a reason,
right?
But anywhere else in the, you know, country, wherever, like they have their belief system, so that's what I'm hoping with this show will at least, you know, like I said, bring some light to it, bring some levity to it as well. It's not all creepy stalker Christian Grey types. I actually hated the books.
Yeah.
So did I.
I thought I couldn't even read it. I was like, it's horrible.
Yeah, I thought it brought a really bad light to the community, and then the movies were 800 times worse.
They were exactly like the books.
Yeah.
That's what made it so bad. It was like never in my life did I want a book to like, or a movie to be different from the book more, and it was exactly like the movie, or the book.
And I thought, you know, he was a creepy guy. And what's also ironic about it, though, is, as far as mental health, is people are like, oh, if someone's into that, like they're mentally unhealthy or something's wrong with them. The irony, though, is no, it's actually the suppression of who they are that's causing any mental health you might suspect. So it's 100%. Not, it's that they're suppressing who they really are.
Yeah.
And I think if the show is shedding more light on that and getting people to relate to that and connect to that.
Especially teenagers who are like, I feel weird because this is who I am. But then they're watching a show, it's like, oh.
It's not shameful.
That, you know.
Yeah. And that's what we kind of want to bring out is that none of this is shameful. And it's like, you know, there's so much humor in it too of like, really? You're into like dressing up as a pony? Like, that's amazing. Let's embrace that. Like whatever it is, it's like, it's kind of, you know, we're not laughing at anybody. We're laughing at ourselves kind of going through these experiences. We're not making fun of anybody. That's absolutely not the intention. We're just, again, allowing them to sort of be themselves and tell these stories that the majority of which already happened, you know? So it's
being
great.
Human.
Yeah.
You know, whatever that is. It's not robotic. You can be whoever you want to be. It doesn't.
But it's hard because you have to give that permission to yourself as well, because it all starts with you.
Yeah, exactly.
And so you have to then admit to yourself, like, wow, like I'm really into feet. Oh, but I shouldn't be into feet. Oh, and then you harbor this resentment and shame for yourself, which then builds. That's oppression.
Right.
So I have a question just regarding all of that. Do you think that, I find it interesting because some people, you know, you see people who are more outward about, you know, their feelings and who they are and such, and then you see people who aren't outward about it, but can the not being outward about it be because they view it as intimacy and private? Like, is it better to be outward, or is it better to be secret out because it's your secret thing?
Well, I think, I know exactly what you mean. It's also being like an extrovert versus an introvert. I think it's entirely situational on the individual. I mean, obviously you want to have that connection and communication with your partner, but I don't think there's judgment either way. Yeah. It just is what it is in terms of how you feel and how honest you can be with yourself.
I think it's about your connection to yourself.
Exactly. And then that and letting yourself like feel whatever it is that you're feeling and release that, and then, you know, sharing that maybe being like, oh, I just own this for myself right now. And maybe when I meet someone one day, I can give them this gift of sharing this side of me with them.
Yeah, wow. Okay,
I love that. I think that's such a, you know, as much as it's a passion for you, it's also, I think you'll find, and you're finding that now, that it's actually going to help so many people that need that.
Thank
You know
you.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I'm excited about, and that's why, you know, I've been so passionate about this, and like, you know, because the second someone hears, you know, a dominatrix style show, they're like, oh no. Like, even just in the pitch meetings, like, I mean, I just went directly to, because I had all these connections because of Bruckheimer and just people that I knew in the industry. So I literally just knocked on doors, and I was like, this is what I want to do. This is what, you know, I want the show to be about. And they just look at you like you have 10 heads, and they're like, absolutely not. This is not what I want to do. But you know, Heather Ruttman is the writer on the show, and she's like my soul sister now. She's amazing. And she and I were so adamant. I was like, my instinct is telling me this is exactly what we're going to do. And she goes, great. She goes, we're the creatives. This is what we're doing. Let's develop it out, and we'll see. And again, I'm so proud of what the finished product is.
And you might have said this earlier, but where are they exactly with it, like right now? Like,
right now, yeah. So everybody just came back from the holiday break and whatnot. So we've sent out the script. We have the pilot ready to go. We did what they call visual pitches starting in July of last year, where basically we had the script already, but we didn't tell people we had the script in case someone wanted to come in, attach their name to it as like an EP, and then they would help develop it out. So we gave kind of an A-B option, but the problem is the show was so different that people didn't really get it from the visual pitches. They were into it. We got a call back in the room from one, but they were like, well, we don't really know if we're the right ones to develop this, was what we kept getting in terms of feedback. So we just kept going and said, all right, well, this is what we're going to do. And then we had a script November 3rd. Yeah, actually November 3rd again. November 3rd of last year. And so now it's been sent out. We're still waiting for certain people to get back to us. But it's been great. We've already gotten offers, and yeah, I can't really complain.
And I know a lot of it, you know, advertising kind of runs the world. So
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So,
Absolutely.
I know a lot of shows are like, okay, how do we pitch this in terms of demographic, and how do we get, what are the advertisers going to feel around this topic?
And it's been so interesting because like it's pretty much the best of times and the worst of times to be pitching a show, because you know, you think everything's being bought up, but a lot of the feedback we've gotten directly from the networks was, oh, well, we don't know where we're going as a network. Like, and people are constantly changing over, like who's in charge of what. So you'll get a green light, or like, hey, we want you called back for this, or we want an interview, you know, another meeting on this, and then their job's eliminated, and someone else is coming in to take that over. So
because of streaming and like them just trying to figure out.
Business models are changing so rapidly. So yeah, so one side of it I see as a positive, but the other side of it has just been very frustrating that you get a yes from someone, and then it's like, oh yeah, but now they're over here now, and you're like, no, because then it starts the process all over again.
It's Hollywood, right?
But it's great, and it's again for my own ego purposes. I mean, I took $10 to my name, got it to Bruckheimer, had it sell. I haven't slept my way to the top. I have a sex blog, but like I did everything as honestly and as much of a hustler as possible.
Put in the work.
Yeah, exactly. And even with a startup and all the other 100 things that I have going on, but I did it, and it's here, and so now it's up to divine timing in terms of what goes next.
So
that's so amazing. I'm so wildly impressed.
You're
one of the most dynamic people. It's just you're in everything. You're entertainment with the show and the tech stuff, and so while this is all going on, I mean, obviously it sounds like this is you're really excited.
Yeah, I'm super excited about it, and even just from this, like a lot of other opportunities and whatnot have kind of come my way. So I'm so excited for 2019, and like I know it sounds kind of corny, but because my goals this year are to throw an axe and befriend a squirrel. That's my 2 goals this year. I'm not like a Happy New Year, New You kind of person. I'm like, that's so lame. But this is it's like the first year that I'm just so genuinely excited because I've put in all of this work, and I know this year is when it's going to be paying off.
Yeah. Are you still doing tech stuff? Like involved with apps and stuff?
Absolutely, yeah. So DropIn's doing really well. We've actually been focused on helping. So we do live video for insurance claims. So we've been doing a lot of stuff for like catastrophes and whatnot with our drones. So we were just in Indonesia. I think we're in Venezuela last week as well. But seeing that footage come back, and then also being able to help families find their animals, find their family members, has been extremely rewarding. And
you want to tell them a little bit, what is DropIn exactly? I know it kind of gives a rough about it, but how does it work exactly?
So it's actually mostly for, if any of your insurance, please reach out to me. The company's called DropIn Inc., and what we do is we use live video to process claims, and also for underwriting. So instead of having an adjuster have to physically come to your location, take X amount of pictures, whatever it is that they need to do, and adjustments, we can actually send you a quick text message, have you go live as the customer, and then the insurance adjuster says go left, go right, this is what I need. Okay, great, processed. So what would take months and months and thousands of dollars, we can do for about $15.
So streamlined.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a great idea too. You guys, yeah, I love it.
How do you decide in terms of like time management, especially having so many multiple revenue streams that you're going after? Like, how do you decide, like, today I need to focus on this?
Yeah,
this.
It's like my internal radar and navigation of like, one, when I look at myself in the mirror in the morning, I'm like, whoa, can't be around people today, you need a beat. Because I'm actually introverted, I'm not an extrovert, so I need sometimes a lot of alone time. So I always start there, and then everything else is just kind of organic. It's like, you know, oh, hey, this project's going on at the office, so I have to be in there today. I'm amazed that, you know, the founder of the company I've been friends with for like 6 years, so he knows that, like, you know, if he needs anything, I'm always there, but if I have other stuff to do, I'm going to go and do that other stuff. So I think it's on a case-by-case basis, but yeah, I can just tell by my internal radar of like how excited I am to be awake today, alive, and you know, if I'm not too many days in a row of not being excited, it's like, well, what do I need to do to change that?
Yeah.
And for me, it's mostly writing, so I'll just, you know, start writing and something will come up.
I have to ask you about it said you worked with Rooster McConaughey, which is Matthew's brother?
Yeah, Matthew's older brother is Rooster McConaughey. Rooster and Butch are like my homies. I love them so much. They're like family. Like, I go and hang out at their house, and like, because you have to stay there when you're in Midland, they're like offended if you don't. And you're like hanging out, cracking a beer in like a helicopter hangar. And you're like, this is amazing right now.
Yeah.
But they were totally life-changing for me in the sense that I was on this island, and I just saw the way that people received their communication was still through a newspaper every Wednesday. So I was like the, you know, only tech person in Islamorada, probably one of the only tech people in Monroe County. So I was like, okay, well, let me just build something. And it was just a very simple prototype. And I wanted to help, you know, curate events in niche tourism-driven markets. And they loved it, but they were like, we're more interested in you. We want to invest in you. So let's make that happen. And I'm so proud that, you know, still to this day, they're like, what are you up to? Tell us everything. And right back with them. So they're amazing.
And that was the West Texas Investors Club.
Yes.
That's great.
And they just had Rooster and Butch on A&E, and I'm hoping to develop some stuff out with them in the coming future as well, because they're such interesting characters. They're so fun to be around.
Do you ultimately, what do you see yourself ultimately doing? Are you just living in each moment? Do you like tech stuff more? Do you like
directing
more? Directing?
Yeah, I want to go into directing bad. So my friend owns a studio in downtown LA. Shout out to Pollution. Hey, Asher. And so I want to, where he basically just gives me access to the studio with my friends. And so I want to try directing like a music video, try directing, you know, some of these things out, because that's what I learned with the bondage world was I could really manipulate people pretty well, which, you know, is part of the
job anyway.
That's the point. Is like, how can you motivate this person to get exactly what you want from them?
Yeah.
And so I'm also such a visual person, so I'm like, if I can combine those two, I think there could be something there.
Well, it sounds like that's always been part of who you are in terms of like, not so much that you're like manipulate people, but and that's not necessarily a bad thing.
It's not a bad thing at all.
You were able to go and have like $10 to your name and somehow, you know, was your way into them being able to pay for food and all that kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
constantly bartering, like making. Yeah. I create win-win situations for people always, like in anything. I always make sure that there's a win-win, even with my friend Asher. Like, you know, we're doing an art night or hanging out. I'm like, oh, I'm going to bring some new great models for you or someone that you can look at. Like, there's always a value add. I'm always giving way more than I'm taking from someone.
Well, it sounds ironic too with what you were saying about the BDSM. Is like everybody's impression would be like, oh, like slave, like they're giving, like you're helping them too. It sounds
Absolutely.
like it's an equal thing, right?
Absolutely, they're getting what they want. They have the release that they want. And when I say release, it wasn't sexual for me at all. So I have no idea what they did before and after sessions. Yeah. But in that session, I was, you know, in this role and this character to them that, you know, allowed them to feel whole. And then for me, I got way better at negotiating. I would just put on my dom heels and like walk around and like start, you know, looking at a contract or something and be like, nope, yes, this, like, it really changed my confidence and really helped me kind of fake it till I made it in terms of that.
Now, I read somewhere that they're more in control than it says. Is that true?
The sub has the power.
The sub actually has the power. I'm trying to contemplate, is that because it's worked out beforehand or something? Or That's so interesting.
Because you have to stay one step ahead of them mentally. No pun intended with feet, but it's like you literally every single move that they make you have to be one step ahead of them, because otherwise it's called topping from the bottom. When they start to recognize, oh yeah, well I can poke you here, I can do this, or oh, you know, I told you to be here at 6 o'clock, it's 6:01. If like the second it changes, it's like you failed, you've misstepped this boundary. But they push boundaries and they test you, and slaves are a lot of work. It was literally like having like a full-time job.
And
yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, it's
just sound.
the
No, I
negotiation
almost think like with the show, I'm assuming you'll kind of. It's like educational too, where there's so many terms within the community where you're, you know, things that I haven't heard of. You know what I mean? That you're like, wait, what's that again? You know? Yeah. Like I assume with the show, it actually kind of brings to light certain things that like a lot of people didn't have even.
Absolutely, and the writer on the show, she literally did. She followed around this dominatrix, and because we blended some of the stories in terms of the different dynamics and whatnot, because there are all these other characters outside of just the main one. And so she followed around this dominatrix and learned kind of what she did and sort of like, well, what do you do after you're a dominatrix? Like, because she had to develop out these characters. And so we did the research, not only my own life experiences, but everything, down to the games that because one of the characters is a gamer, down to the games, obscure games that we're using. We did some sort of like hack on it. And I confirmed with one of my super nerdy friends who's way nerdier than I am. I was like, please tell me all of this makes perfect sense. Like, we, down to minutia, have kept this as accurate as humanly possible.
Do you have artistic ownership to the point where, like, if they, you know what I mean, in terms of, like, I don't like this looks, you know, you need to scrap it?
To be determined, because basically there's, like, guilds and whatnot, so I have an amazing attorney who's, like, reverse engineering. I've told him what my goals were in terms of credits, and so he's like, okay, cool, here's what we can do to get you that. So you need to become, a lot of it's decided by the guilds, but it is amazing how, like, with Bruckheimer, I had such a horrible deal, but like you're like, it's Jerry Bruckheimer. I walked away from something and I'm getting 2 checks and all this publicity for nothing. But I focused very hard on getting the credit based on the blog by Jen Friel because I knew I could leverage that. Okay. But with this now, it's night and day different. I was like measly consulting producer to either getting creator credit, EP credit, like it's night and day different this time around.
Interesting.
But it's decided by the guilds, but I'm setting myself up to be as prepared for this as possible. And again, I have an amazing partner in crime that she and I just have busted our butts on it.
What's the biggest thing that you're concerned about with it, if anything? Like the biggest kind of like worry when it comes to something like this?
That's the thing. It's like I had to relinquish control, which is hilarious as a dom. I had to kind of let a lot of that go because it was the first time I did this when it was up for pilot season. So my agents love to email you. They don't call you when you have like a sold show. Like
they love email.
Yeah, like they email.
Yeah, I learned that they love email.
They just email you. Like I'm such a passionate person that I would be like, you sold a TV show, congratulations. Or like, I'm sure for them it's like old hat. But I found it so strange. So as the show was up during pilot season, I had auto refresh Chrome browser extension on, and literally I was resetting deadline and like all these pages because I was like, they're gonna probably know before I know. And I drove myself into this panic for almost 6 weeks, and I literally just said at one point, I was like, I'm shutting off my computer, I'm shutting off my phone, because your friends are also calling you daily being like, did your show sell?
Oh, God.
Did your show sell?
Right.
Like, and like, it's amazing, like, you know, what an opportunity to have, but I stressed myself out to no degree. I wound up going on this little Airstream vacation with my dog, and so this time around, I just had to set a boundary with myself, saying like, I did the best that I could, and even on the blog, I have like, editors note, if you're part of the pitch meeting, click here, you know, after the meeting, you know, here's the most recent slate post. And that's the #1 thing the executives comment on. They're like, that was so cool, because I'm an executive. And I clicked this link. I was like, out of all of the things that I'm presenting to you today, that's what you were like, I'm an executive, and I'm clicking this link. Like, it just, it cracks me up. All I know is that I'm doing the best that I can. You know, my side of the street is clean, and it's been so fun, and I've learned so much. So we'll see what the future holds.
Well, Jen, you're
so exciting.
Amazing.
Yeah. So much luck to you. I'm so excited to see it come out.
Thank you.
Sure. Yeah.
The blog is Talk Nerdy to Me Lover. You can find Jen Friel on Instagram, Twitter. Twitter handle's Talk Nerdy to Me Lover.
Twitter handle is Jen Friel, JenFriel, and then Instagram's Talk Nerdy to Me Lover.
Instagram. So we'll put all that in the comments when we post this. She is amazing. Jen Friel, thanks for coming.
Yes, thank you so much. So excited for you.
Thank you.
Next week, Kira and I are going to have. We're just gonna do a discussion.
I think it'll just be you and I. I think
Catch up.
it's time for some alone time, just intimate conversation, me and you.
We will have an intimate conversation,
Ooh.
Kira and
I
Geoff.
don't know what topic we'll pick, but
We'll have to decide a good one.
Yeah.
We'll find one. All right. Well,
thank you for
everybody
joining.
for tuning in.
Yes.
The amazing
Thank
Jen
you, Jen.
Friel.
Awesome. So
All right.
excited.
Cool.
Bye.